can't hear it. You have to hold that last chord. If I just go to the note, it's the most anticlimactic thing because there's the whole organ is just, screaming away, and there's kind of this tiny little thin legs and no waist and a little body, and then this giant screaming head of hair, and all this distortion from all this screamy Germanic. When what you need is, you have to actually have it. You have to have tone and warmth and not just scream. I don't mean to be negative about it, but I do feel that the job of a good instrument is to absolutely, unquestioningly, and without limitation, accept the input of its player and to bend to its player's will. And that this organ absolutely does not do. What I'm trying to do in rehearsal is actually to quickly try to develop the illusion or the sense, I don't want it to be an illusion, that I have a relationship with this instrument, that I know it intimately, that it's mine personally. And of course, a friendship, a relationship takes time. It can't be faked, and it certainly can't be rushed. I think we've all seen what can happen when you try to rush something, and it ends in disaster. When the instrument is not with you, then you have no voice.
My walk from shore to shore takes 40 steps, not a single one more. If God spared me at all this desert rock, I believe there's none. Caress these walls of red and white beyond the bright light. I'm a loner on a lighthouse, just a loner on a lighthouse. I'm a loner on a lighthouse.
Dear Dad, remember the Hammond organ at the shop? Long time ago. It's been a long road to today, but I'm about to own my second dream organ. And I think it's going to open just as many doors as that first one did. Here I am in Berlin, about to fly to Boston. I'm thinking about everything that went in to this new instrument and this moment. To have grown through that first organ at the shop to the big one that's in my brain and about to come alive. I need a voice, and I think the voice is what I'm about to find. It's going to be a big moment.
And it was a very difficult birth. It was stressful. He was put down into his crib and he woke and just screamed this horrible scream. And I could feel the scream reverberating through my body before he made a sound. And he was difficult that way. He never took naps. He was constantly up. I remember realizing he was musical, and this sounds crazy, because you just think it's, postpartum lunacy. But I'd have to change his diaper, and he seemed to want to be entertained. I didn't know what to do, so I would sing. And he would either sing the same notes I was singing, or he would harmonize, but he couldn't talk yet. And I had a kid that was reading at 3.5. I know he's smart, but I also know that he's gonna get bored, and he wanted to tap dance, and if you're a little boy and you tap dance with the whole class as girls, you get called names, but he wasn't in school, so it wasn't an issue.
I was kind of a nerd and an outsider somehow as a child. I didn't have much perspective for it since I was homeschooled, but for me homeschooling was this thing of flowering freedom.
So we had him tap dancing for a while, and we'd have to sit on the porch, and he would play Scott Joplin music, and he'd come out and bow, and we'd have to applaud, and every time he finished, and he would keep us watching him tap dancing to Scott Joplin forever. It was insane. He was socially a tough child because he wanted to control everything.
Well, I've always had a big excitement about authority, and that may be one of the attractions to the organ, because not only that it's an official instrument that's of an institution, but even that within the instrument itself you have all of these systems of organization that have to be carried through and respected. My parents, before I was born, were married at the Unitarian Church, and it contains the first organ that I ever played. And it was the first time that I ever experienced the phenomenon of holding down a key and having a sound continue. The idea that you're touching time, because when you press the key, it will continue to sound regardless of your own investment of energy. The tiny amount of energy that it takes to hold the key down is actually all you have to maintain. And the gateways of time are just opened up, or rather even the entire sense of reality around you sort of slows down.
Actually, I misplaced him for a while, but I found tons of his artwork, and I have a few things to show you. This is a great piece. This is a badger conducting a full orchestra of mice, from the glockenspiel to the harp to the kettle drums, violins, and here's the big mouse organist, and there's all the pipes, and you can see how detailed he was even at an early age. I think he was about 7 when he did that. And this you can't see well, but there's more going on in the audience, if you can see it, what's going on between the rodents that are seated. It's in the audience that the action's taking place. And this is, he wrote this, it says, my piano instructor. Beth Eder is gold to me. Her eyes are big white stars. Her hair is trailing carved oak. And that to me is love. Taylor Cameron Carpenter. This is it says my piano instructor. So I did that when he was quite small.
Gypsy, talk! Come on in! Come on in!
The first thing I think of Beth, I think of structure. Because as much as my parents gave me so many things, it's not that they were unstructured, but there was a lot of freedom and maybe not so much discipline. With Beth, there was discipline and structure. Of course, we were going into her home for these lessons. Very tasteful, sort of suburban home with this tiny piano. And even there was a sense of structure, of order. Things were polite, clean, and orderly, and aesthetic, and tasteful. But at home it was more chaotic, and it was a wonderful chaos, but it was chaotic.
When he walked in the door, I could tell right away that this was a person with supreme intelligence, sparkle, fire, curiosity, absolutely in touch with what was around him. He was engaged. His facility was incredible. He could memorize things almost at sight. I mean, I would ask him to play something and he would just play it back to me. I actually tried to discourage him from pursuing the organ as much as he wanted to at that time, because I know that the grounding in the piano is essential, and I assumed that it would help him. I knew that he would go to the organ eventually anyway. I could see that it was in his bloodstream. I knew that that was going to happen. And I'm sure that the other students in my piano class looked at him as though he was different. He didn't really fit in.
Of course, Dad, I knew the next step would give me the independence I was looking for. It's important not just for an artist to have independence, but I know you needed that just like Mom did.
We're just on the way to Winston-Salem, North Carolina, which is where I went to high school, the University of North Carolina School of the Arts. And it just changed my life in so many ways. I mean, Winston-Salem is probably the first place where I really felt independent and, able to experiment with making a character, deciding who I wanted Cameron Carpenter to be.
By the time he got to North Carolina, I think that, he went through some dark times. Some very introspective times, and some times filled with shadows.
I remember always feeling vaguely uncomfortable around other kids, and definitely not sort of eligible to be part of the crowd.
He pushed people away. He would go into lunchroom in a suit when everybody else looks like a hippie, carrying a briefcase. He looked like presidential candidate or something. put earphones on, spread his stuff out around so nobody could sit next to him.
I was quite introverted in high school. I was a real bona fide nerd. And I identified as a nerd. I dressed like a nerd. I nerdified myself. Actually, it was a way of becoming the character, I guess, already. But it is true that I skipped a lot of class just to work on transcribing music and studying music and practicing it.
Invisible but there, I wanna hide but away. I don't wanna feel.
Mom?
Oh, I miss you so much. Smokey was in his chair. Oh, there he is. I'm surprised he's not hiding with
I know, he's doing
so
really
much
well.
going on. He's accustomed to just being with me or maybe with one other person in the massage room, you know.
Hey, do you have a bracelet I can have? I'm doing bracelets now.
What do you mean you're doing that?
Well, I'm collecting like hundreds of bracelets and I
No,
have...
I'm not giving you my bracelets.
Well, just one.
Well, I don't want to do that.
Got something to eat?
You betcha. Come on back.
Oh my God, we better eat it.
Yeah, this is pasta salad.
Oh my God, yeah.
Some tomatoes. This is crystallized ginger with lemon on it. What time?
I figure I need to leave it at 11 or so.
Well,
We can have breakfast though.
okay. Yeah, I was worried you're gonna have to leave at like 7.
No.
It's sad to be alone on Thanksgiving
Yeah,
or a holiday.
I'll be making the recording.
Oh.
So, all Thanksgiving week.
Where are
we
you
have-
making it? New York?
No, I'm in Massachusetts, in
Oh, yeah?
Methuen, Massachusetts. There's a little concert hall there, and we rented it for 9 days, so we have it for 9 days, 24 hours a day.
Wow.
So it's, yeah, minor amount of pressure.
A lot of work.
My mom moved down to Winston-Salem, and we lived together for about a year. That was a very difficult year. I remember a plate of spaghetti being thrown through the plate glass window in the front of the house where we were living. I mean, we're both so volatile as personalities sometimes, and we both have insane tempers that can get out of control. But I really then had to be an adult, and that clearly I would have to go my own way. Love you.
Oh, I hate this. Never see you. Love you. Love you. Be safe. I only see him about once a year. It's not enough. And I hate it. But, you know, you want your kids to do their best, and being an artist in residence at the Berlin Philharmonic is a pretty big feather in your cap. You know, not to mention all the concerts and the digital organ project, you know. I really wish I could see more of him. But we'll see what the future brings.
And from here, I went to, from North Carolina, I went to New York. Once I was, graduating as a high school senior in North Carolina, I auditioned at Juilliard and fell in love with New York City.
Where is the silver sea? Silver sea.
The moment for me that was definitive about New York and my sense of arrival, I remember standing near Penn Station, suddenly being in the midst of this electricity and this intense energy. For me, it was just what I had been looking for. There was an energy there that I was attracted to. It wasn't really rational. It wasn't something that I had an explanation for. But I knew that I wanted to be around it, and I knew it would be good for me. And I think that's what inspired me to audition at Juilliard.
The second movement, this very fast. One at first seems to think it's imbalanced, but it really isn't upon repeated hearings. But we're ready. Sarah Danaspor.
So I had auditioned for Juilliard when I was 18. At that time, personal confidence and security for me was not one of my strong traits. I always was aware of coming from very humble background, completely outside, in the woods, essentially. And that was good, because it forced me to recognize a lot of things about myself, and it also forced me to look for better ways of being and ways of becoming yourself more each day. That you don't have to just be the thing that you are, but that you can be what you want to be. I was also very unusual in terms of style at Juilliard. But as you'll often observe, not only in the arts, but also in sciences and intellectual communities, there's a strong feeling that that person must be a dilettante or foolish or not serious in some way. And of course, in academia, seriousness is sort of the prerequisite to everything.
In Cameron, there was the inevitable spirit of rebellion in certain ways, musically, socially, things like that, that have to be part of an artist's equipment to get what you want. And that, you see, is a great attribute of the great performer. Seldom talked about or understood, but there's never been a great public performer that did not have, in the best sense of the word, an aggressive strain to try to get what they want.
By the time I left high school, I already had an idea of myself as capable of achieving a significance and a notoriety and generating an artistic impact in a way which would transcend the instrument. But it wasn't until I moved to New York that I was thrust deeply into close contact with the actual mechanisms of commercial music making, classical and otherwise. My whole time in New York was highly informed by a sense of competition, and that was from day one. It used to be more than a habit, but a ritual, to not only see the windows at Bergdorf's, but also to go to some of the ateliers, Versace. And as a freshman at Juilliard, I had no remote chance to actually shop at those stores, but they were really useful to me because I was able to observe people there. Particularly in New York, there's an intense sense of personal mystique, the mystique of the elite, of exclusivity, of haute couture and other things in a sort of parts per million ratio that's higher than maybe anywhere else in the world. And for somebody who's really interested in people, and also somebody, as I was doing, who really wanted to take the best of everything and the most interesting things from all around you and assemble them into a new character. Perhaps not unlike we take the best stops and sounds from different organs and put them into something that could never exist as any one physical pipe organ. So I was assembling characters, and I got to meet some of the most incredible people that way.
And then 9/11. First plane hitting, it looked like it was Die Hard. It looked like it was a Bruce Willis. People, I think, didn't know what to make of it. But it was pretty clear when the second one hit that this is really bad. And so many people came into this church. They were panicked, they were scared, they were frightened. And as we opened the door, this is when the building collapsed, the first building. Well, that's only 600 feet that way, and I left the organ on. It never occurred to me to turn it off. And so all of the dust, but even though there are no open windows, this entire church was filled with this very fine pumice. So whether we sold it or kept it, had to go. So what do you put in its place? This has, you remember Star Trek? You remember the holograph deck? You go into the holograph room where make-believe you can be on a desert island, or you can be... This is the holograph deck of the Starship Enterprise. This can be anything you want.
Trinity is absolutely the birth of my awakening as an artist who would go a different direction with the organ. Because before Trinity, I was fascinated with the digital organ, but I was actually still a skeptic.
I can see a young genius like Cameron coming through Juilliard and looking at this awful humdrum life of being an organ recitalist. Let's face it, you're stuck in churches, you're stuck in concert halls with not very good acoustics and lousy instruments.
The thing about Trinity is that Trinity showed me that I could be more than I was already. And no organ except maybe 2 or 3 pipe organs have ever demanded that. You don't cut a diamond with a lesser gemstone. You cut it with a stone of equal hardness. And when I ran into the Trinity organ for the first time, it was like hitting a wall. I suddenly found something that I could sharpen myself against every day, and it would not yield.
And I think the moment this kid, who was here late at night, started playing this thing, and he realized I could actually make my own design exactly to my own specification. It can sound like a pipe organ or anything else that I want. It could be a theater organ, it could be a classical pipe organ, it can be a Baroque organ, it can be a romantic organ, it can be anything you can hear. And I can take it with me and tour. I can bring my own instrument and have my own voice. I think he got that very, very early on. And I think that's the magic of this instrument.
Suddenly, like a gate opening, I saw that I could really go on to a next level and do something way more than I had done with any other instrument.
I got hate mail from all kinds of organists all over the country who said, you know, you're destroying our profession. You, as a representative at a place as public as Trinity Church, have an obligation to put in a pipe organ and show the proper way to do things. And I disagree. This was the opportunity to build an instrument in a new medium and make it the best. People are threatened by that. Anytime there is change, I think it's human nature to equate that with loss. Somebody once said the leading edge is the bleeding edge. Well, you take chances if you're going to be the leader, if you're going to be the maverick. You're going to piss people off. They're going to get angry with you.
He's so disgusting. I just told you guys that he could be a good porn star. I really have had enough of this particular individual attempting to liberate the organ from sacred institutions. As a pipe organ builder, it's in my best business interest to impede this person as much as possible. Personally, I find his playing infinitely more disgusting than this picture. Certainly his musical interpretations are obscene. In all of the arts, there are always jealous personalities. And one of the joys of competition for me is trying to be able to compete with myself and compete with my own past history. Here's some shots. These are components from inside the console under construction. That looks like, you can see where the stop tabs protrude, and the mechanical contrivances that make them move would be behind there. There's a huge jolt that goes through you when you realize that this thing is actually now going to happen. Actually coming into the world.
Yes, I do. Do you
want us to say
Yeah. Hi. Come on in.
All right. We're gonna get the big discussion.
Yeah. It's frightening. It's monumental. It's just going to be beyond anything that I even could have told you about. The whole organ could be assembled in 35 minutes without lifting a thing. So it is an engineering masterpiece. It's
exceptionally glamorous. Because I assume you'll be changing.
Yeah, I mean, there would definitely be different looks.
Yeah, because that will organically bring in the fashion element to the evening and the afternoon.
I feel like it might be something that it would be good that if we could control it, and have verifiability about it.
Some way of sending out messages via Twitter, Facebook, all platforms, having snippets of this.
We need the room now. Thank you.
Well, that's business. This is not a story that could be told twice, nor is it something that could be done twice if it wasn't right the first time around. There's one chance to affect an audience. There's one chance to build that audience. There's one chance to get that story, especially in 2014. We're not living in the golden age of the CD, nor are we living in the halcyon days of the classical music audience. We're living in a time of crisis, which for me is a normal state, actually.
So what's up? Come on. Do you want some sugar?
No. So there's something I want. I have a reason.
Of course.
I want you to do a look for me. I really want to have something that's as unique a look as the organ is unique and unified musically.
Mm-hmm.
And it has to be also good for television, and it can't obscure the organ. I mean, we've just spent however much money engineering an organ bench that actually allows you to see my feet. So it could have the suggestion of tails, but not actually tails. You know what I'm saying? Something that's extremely recognizable and something that's a little bit androgynous, but it's not deliberately gender bending. It's just...
Well, I'm thinking about something that has volume, and then silk chiffon, so it's very...
Would it be heavy enough? Because I don't feel comfortable in something that's diaphanous. I feel it actually has to have a certain weight.
Okay, well...
I kind of want this Balenciaga straight boom.
Let's go to the studio.
Okay.
I can show you some stuff.
Okay.
Okay?
It can be so intimidating to be around so many great talents if you're an intimidatable person. But in my case, of course I was insecure, but I also have fundamental total securities and strong, convictions. Okay, so something about the blouse thing doesn't sit well. What if you did something? What if you did something that assumed the presence of an undershirt? Like, what if I was wearing a black I mean, we could even make it out of silk chiffon. Or you. Thank you. But what if I was wearing what amounted to a sleeveless t-shirt or like a wife beater?
Yeah, by the way, congrats on your new baby.
Thank you. I do feel as though I've actually have a child, probably the closest I'll ever come. I mean, let's hope. The best words I've ever found to describe that are a little couplet by William Blake, which is that if the sun and moon should doubt, they'd immediately go out. That for me is sort of the whole touchstone idea of actual security and insecurity. You have to have them both. But self-doubt really can stop everything. And so you have to not do that.
He's a risk taker. And, you know, nothing ventured, nothing gained.
Let's go. Push. Good. Slow down. Good.
Many of those pipe organs have been horribly useless and frustrating musical instruments, which have been pig wrestling fights to perform. Not necessarily because they're bad organs, but because they are not right for what it is that I have to give. And I need a certain instrument that existed only in my mind until now.
So he's always fighting the instrument in a way, or having to constantly adjust what he's doing to accommodate. How much fun would it be if instead of he accommodating the instrument could accommodate him?
Emotion, the emotion and the meaning that I have to feel in order to feel that my life has value and that my work has value. Because if it doesn't have value to me first, it cannot possibly have value to anybody else. I could not expect an audience to care. If I don't actually feel it myself. And a yearning to feel is what makes a musician want to become better. It's a yearning to feel the thing that is in the piece that hasn't been learned yet, or that for me it's very much that dangerous sort of edge moment. Dangerous in the sense that it's just at the brink of controllability.
Dad, I didn't realize until later what a huge influence you have been on me in terms of engineering and the value of personal industry. Having an investment in your own tools and making things with your own hands for yourself, including yourself. Whether that thing is your identity or your career or something that you actually can touch, like a tool.
The ambition here is to create an instrument that will be three things. It will be mobile. That in itself is not particularly hard to do. But the next two things make that first principle almost unattainable, which is that it has to be a great musical instrument, and it has to be a consistent, unchanging musical instrument that maintains its identity and therefore its relationship to me, and ergo my relationship to my potential audience. no matter where I play it. And that's an unbelievably challenging thing to do. You can imagine that, seeing that thing for the first time, I was scared shitless. Hey guys. When you touch it with your own hands, obviously it takes on something more than it was in your mind. So when you have invested yourself and the time and money of many, many other people, and you then first see the spaceship, I guess, that will take you to that planet that you're going to try to colonize or whatever, then it's extremely overwhelming. Oh yeah, the bench is absolutely perfect. It's absolutely perfect. It's like satin. Look at that. I mean, have you ever seen a more gorgeously built thing in your life? I designed it, most of it. And I certainly designed everything that has anything to do with the way it will interact with me and what tonal and musical resources it will have, what its personality will be. That's gonna be incredible. Wow.
We began really with something that was based off of his original concept of this very light contemporary instrument. One was a bit too traditional and bulky. One he felt was a bit too modern, didn't convey the traditional respect the instrument can convey. The common thread was always to have this open area over the shoes and the pedal.
I love the acoustic. Very smooth. That's nice. Warm. There's a lot of nice little things here. I think Cameron would like that. Got a lot of personality in it. So, let's go for it.
Yeah. The touring organ could be described as the sounds of my life in two ways. I mean, it's the sounds of my life so far, in the sense that really the three or four most important organs of my life are in there, as well as countless other organs that that now become musically important to the rest of my life.
We've got samples from older American organs, from newer ones, mechanical action, electric action, all different kinds. We record every pipe and use multiple microphones and so forth to catch it from various vantage points. And then we have to, sift through it all and find the best sounding and most even sounding results over the course of all of the notes.
Wow, boy! I mean, this is a logistical feat. Yeah, and the interesting thing is where everything goes afterwards, because you end up with these boxes that have to be dealt with. And I guess what will happen is we'll disassemble it in the lobby, and then I'll get a little, that'll easily. You should be careful what you wish for, because it is exactly what you may well get.
But that console represents an instrument that's as big as some of the very large and famous instruments around the world. And it does, in fact, take room to pull it apart and transport it. And, you're taking 18 feet of a 20-foot truck just for the console. That's definitely in the OMG category. There's no question about it.
Now, I might not live up to it. I mean, I really might not have the talent for that machine. And that forces you to confront that you may not, in fact, be good enough, which then raises huge questions with the ego. But that's life, I guess.
Shit.
You are joining your conference as a participant. For a menu of available commands, press *#.
Hi, sorry, Cameron, he's here again. You can be celebratory about it.
which I think is a really good sales message for this album, because I don't want this to be an angry young organist. People of a certain age and a certain awareness will always recognize what's being said by the use of that, and that's a hipster thing, that's a style thing, it's a fashion thing, and it's certainly not a classical music thing. The last person in the world who wants to hear organ music is me. Organ music? I'm sorry.
Yes.
Okay, so I'll say goodbye, and Anita, look forward to meeting you in New York.
Okay, great.
Okay, talk to you soon. Thank you all. Bye-bye.
Bye.
How do you run this stupid phone? Unbelievable. Stop it. Seeing your own vision and seeing that you have to make good on what you promised and what you said could be done is also terrifying. Seeing that your talent and your potential as a human could be more than what it is, and that you can keep growing and keep changing, was also scary. I already feel, that there are things in the life of Leonard Bernstein, and I guess what I'm trying to ask is, you were there and you saw what happened. Don't you have any, do you have any words of warning or advice or admonition for me?
Do you want me to shake my finger at you?
No, well, if you want to shake your finger, you can.
I'm not a finger shaker.
I know. But I'm feeling like,
what do you
think? What do you think? Isn't there a...
I would say, here's what I would say. Quite apart from, trying to control your lifestyle and, not becoming dependent on controlled substances or, cigarettes and booze and pills, all of which played a role in my dad's life. Quite apart from that, and even apart from the mad lifestyle of being in hotels and parties and running around and, all the attention and the adulation, it's kind of like a drug. Mm-hmm. And you can get dependent on that drug, and then you have to do less from your core to achieve the results that you got earlier using your core. Mm-hmm. So you have to remember to stay connected to your core and to do what you do from that inner place. I think the biggest danger you can run as a mega successful artist, which I fully expect you will become, is to lose touch with your own authenticity.
Mm-hmm. It's quite an experience to work towards something for years and to accomplish it, but then to realize that you're standing at the very beginning.
There will be a fair amount of geography to the audio sources of sound. The total amplifier power is about 14,000 watts, 52 channels. 12 of them are subwoofers, 40 are full-range speakers that'll be all across the stage. I think Cameron will have just a crystalline presentation of the sound.
Got some Bernstein?
Yep. Here's your score.
How are you?
Good.
Good.
Yeah, thank you.
Mm-hmm.